I wasn't supposed to be there that night. The office was dark, half the lights off, the kind of quiet where even the hum of the vending machine feels too loud. I'd come back for my jacket, or at least that's what I told myself. Her car was still outside. That silver one with the scratch along the rear door, the one she always parked straight, while the rest of us came in crooked. Mara. Everyone knew her as Daniel's wife. Daniel, my senior, always loud, always talking. I'd seen her at a few office dinners, quiet but magnetic, the kind of person who didn't have to try. The kind who remembered names. The kind who laughed softly, like she was careful not to disturb anyone. When I saw the faint light under her office door, I almost turned around. But something, curiosity maybe, kept me there. I knocked. No answer. Just a muffled sound, maybe a drawer closing. "Hey, it's, me? Liam." Her voice came after a second. "You're working late?" I opened the door halfway. "Just forgot my jacket." She was sitting on the edge of the desk, heels off, feet tucked beneath her, hair loose. Not like the polished version I remembered. There was an empty mug beside her and a bottle of water half drunk. The air smelled faintly of lavender, her, maybe, and coffee that had gone cold hours ago. "Didn't think anyone was still here," I said. She smiled tiredly. "I couldn't sleep. Daniel's out of town." She said it like a fact, not an invitation. But there was something in the air, a quiet that wasn't uncomfortable, just fragile. I leaned against the doorframe, unsure whether to go or stay. She looked at me the way people look when they're deciding whether to trust you. "You look young enough to still believe in ambition," she said, glancing at the laptop screen. "That's good. Don't lose that." I laughed, too quickly. "I don't know if that's ambition or bad habits." She smiled again, smaller this time. "Same thing, sometimes." A pause settled, long enough for me to notice the way she was twisting the ring on her finger. Her shoulders were drawn in, the posture of someone bracing against something invisible. "Do you want me to stay until you're done?" I asked. "It's late." "I'm fine," she said, though her voice caught slightly at the end. But when I turned to go, she added, "Actually, wait." I stopped. She got up and crossed to the window. The city stretched below, quiet, scattered lights, a few distant sirens. She folded her arms, but not out of cold. "Do you ever feel like—" She started, then shook her head. "No. Never mind." "Like what?" I asked, stepping closer. She didn't look at me. "Like you're standing in a room full of people, and still, no one really sees you?" I didn't answer right away. The way she said it, it didn't sound like a metaphor. More like something she lived with. "Yeah," I said finally. "Every day." She turned then, really looked at me, eyes darker than before. Whatever she saw made her shoulders soften. "You shouldn't know that feeling yet," she murmured. "I think I do." The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It felt like the kind you don't break because something real might disappear if you do. Then, the sound of a phone buzzing on the desk. She looked down. Her expression changed, quick, unreadable. She didn't reach for it. Instead, she said quietly, "Liam, would you mind walking me to my car?" Her voice trembled just slightly, like the question cost her something. I nodded, pulse sharp in my throat. And as she reached for her coat, the phone lit again. Daniel's name glowing on the screen. We walked through the empty parking lot without speaking. The air was cool enough to see our breath, the kind of quiet that made every step sound louder than it should. Her keys jingled in her hand. Mine stayed buried in my pocket. Her car sat under the lone flickering light, the silver body catching the pale orange glow. She stopped just short of it, staring at the windshield like she wasn't ready to leave yet. "Sorry," she said suddenly. "You didn't have to, it's fine." I cut in. "I wasn't doing anything." That earned a small, crooked smile. You say that like you're trying to convince yourself. She leaned back against the car, arms folded, gaze tilted up toward the stars barely visible through the haze. I used to come here at night, she said after a beat. When Daniel and I first moved to the city, I'd wait for him to finish work. He was always the last to leave. I guess now, it's me. I didn't know what to say to that. The honesty in her voice hit somewhere unguarded. You still love him? I asked before I could stop myself. She didn't answer right away. The silence stretched, uncomfortable and too raw. Then, love isn't the problem. Time is. She turned to me, eyes softer. You're what, 26? 24. She exhaled through her nose. 24. God. A short laugh, but it wasn't mocking, more like disbelief aimed at herself. When I was your age, I thought 40 sounded like another planet. Now you're here, I said quietly. Now I'm here, she echoed. And it's lonelier than I expected. Something in the way she said it, half whisper, half confession, made me look away. I didn't want her to see how much that line landed. I know I shouldn't be talking to you like this, she added. You work with Daniel. You're kind. You don't deserve to be pulled into other people's cracks. I shook my head. You're not pulling me anywhere. But that wasn't true. I could already feel it, the slow, deliberate pull I couldn't explain or resist. The way she moved slower than most people, like she measured her words before releasing them. The way she held eye contact just a fraction longer than necessary. She looked at me for a long time, as if searching for something familiar. You remind me of him, she said finally. The way he used to be. The word stung, though I didn't know why. I'm not him, I said. I know. Then came the quiet again, that strange, suspended moment before the night gives up its warmth. I stepped closer. Close enough to smell the faint trace of her perfume, something subtle and clean. Thank you, she said. Her voice cracked on the second word. For staying. Before I could reply, she reached out and brushed her fingers against my sleeve, light, almost hesitant, but deliberate enough to stop my breath. Her touch lingered there for a heartbeat, then fell away. And though she turned to unlock her car, she didn't get in. She just stood there, one hand on the door handle, eyes on the ground. Like both of us knew this wasn't the end of the night, only the beginning of something neither of us could name. The next week, everything felt off. I'd see her at the office, quick glances across the hallway, polite nods, nothing more. No one else noticed anything, but I could feel it, that invisible current between us. I tried to work like nothing happened. Pretend that night was just a ride to the parking lot. But every time I heard her laugh from down the hall, or caught her reflection in the glass door, the memory came rushing back, her hand on my sleeve, the tremor in her voice. By Thursday, I stopped pretending. It was almost 7 when I left my desk and saw her in the copy room, alone, standing too still. The hum of the printer filled the silence. She was watching the pages slide out one by one, though she didn't seem to see them. Mara, I said quietly. She turned fast, like she hadn't expected me. Hey! You're still here? Yeah. Her eyes flicked to the door behind me. You shouldn't be. I wasn't looking for you. I was. She exhaled slowly. You need to stop doing that. Doing what? Looking at me like that. Her voice was steady, but her hands weren't. I saw them tighten on the stack of papers, fingers white at the knuckles. I'm sorry, I said, though neither of us believed it. You're Daniel's colleague, she reminded me. He trusts you. I know. You're young. You don't want this mess. I stepped closer anyway. What if I do? Her eyes snapped to mine. For a second, neither of us breathed. Then she shook her head, trying to rebuild the wall that had already started to crumble. This isn't. The door swung open. Daniel. He froze, surprised, holding a folder in one hand and his phone in the other. Hey, he said, eyes darting between us. Didn't expect anyone still here. Mara's voice was sharp and bright, too bright. Printer jam. Liam was helping me fix it. Daniel chuckled, oblivious. Always saving the day, huh? He clapped me on the shoulder. I flinched at the contact. Yeah, I managed, forcing a laugh. Guess so. Mara kept her face neutral, but I could see the tension in her jaw. Daniel glanced at her papers. You coming home soon? In a bit, she said. I'll lock up. He nodded, kissed her cheek casually, then turned to me. Don't work too hard, kid. When the door closed behind him, either of us moved. Mara pressed her hands over her face and let out a shaky breath. This can't happen, she whispered. I know, I said, though the words burned in my throat. She dropped her hands, eyes glistening. Then why are you still here? I didn't have an answer. Only the truth I couldn't say. So instead I reached out, just barely, and brushed my fingers against hers. Not a kiss. Not yet. But her hand didn't pull away. And that was worse. I stopped sleeping much after that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face in that office light, pale, caught, trembling between guilt and something that looked too much like wanting. We barely spoke for days. When we did, it was clipped, rehearse. Morning, need that file, thanks. But the space between those words felt louder than anything else. By Friday, I'd convinced myself it was over. Whatever we were, whatever I thought I felt, it had burned itself out. Then came the text. Mara, can you come by? Daniel's out. Just that. No emoji, no explanation. I should have ignored it. I didn't. Her apartment building was quiet, that expensive kind of quiet where even the air feels heavy. She opened the door before I knocked twice. She wasn't dressed up. Oversized sweater, hair down, no makeup. The look of someone who'd stopped pretending for the night. I shouldn't have texted you, she said. Then why did you? She didn't answer. Just walked toward the kitchen, leaving the door open behind me. I followed. A half-empty glass of wine sat on the counter. She picked it up, took a small sip, then set it down again. I've been trying to forget that night, she said. The way you looked at me. The way I didn't stop you. I swallowed hard. You don't have to explain. But I do. She turned to face me fully now. You make me feel. She stopped, searching for a word that didn't exist. You make me remember who I was before everything became polite. I moved closer. Maybe that's not a bad thing. It is, she said sharply. Then softer. Because I can't have it. The air between us tightened. I don't want to be a mistake, Mara. You're not. Then what am I? She looked down. You're the reminder that I stopped living my own life. Something inside me cracked. You talk like you're already gone. Her eyes lifted, fierce now. Because I have to be. I stepped closer again, not touching, but close enough to feel the warmth of her breath. You don't have to do anything. She shook her head, voice trembling. You don't understand. Daniel used to be your age. He used to look at me the way you do now. And then years passed, and now we barely look at all. Her hand found the counter behind her, gripping it like an anchor. And if I let this happen, I'll break everything. Him. You. Me. I could feel my pulse everywhere. You already did, I said quietly. The second you texted me. Her eyes flashed with something raw, anger, want, fear. Maybe all of it. The next second, she reached out and pressed her palm flat against my chest. Not pushing me away, just feeling the heartbeat she'd been pretending not to hear. Her voice was barely a whisper. You should go. I don't want to. Liam. I leaned in, the space between us collapsing into one suspended breath, her eyes wide, mine half closed, everything unsaid trembling in the air. And then, a knock at the door. She froze. We both turned toward it. Daniel's voice came through, muffled but unmistakable. Mar? You home? Mara's hand slipped from my chest like she'd touched fire. Her eyes darted toward the door, then back to me, wide, panicked, alive. Don't move, she whispered. She snatched the wine glass, dumped it in the sink, and smoothed her sweater like that would erase everything. My heart was hammering loud enough for him to hear through the door. Mar? Daniel's voice again, closer now. A key turned in the lock. My brain kicked in too late, shoes by the door, my jacket slung on the chair. She saw it too. Go, she hissed. Now! But it was too late. The door opened. Daniel stepped in, mid-sentence. I thought you said. He froze when he saw me standing there. Liam? The silence was thick enough to choke on. I was just. I started, but Mara cut in. He dropped something off for you, she said too fast. The project files. Daniel's eyes flicked between us, her flushed face, the glass in the sink, my half-zipped jacket. The story didn't fit, and we all knew it. Really? He said slowly. You came all the way here to deliver files? I nodded, throat dry. Yeah. You weren't answering your phone. He studied me, then gave a humorless laugh. You kids are too dedicated. Mara turned her back, pretending to tidy the counter. I wanted to leave, but my legs wouldn't move. Thanks, man, Daniel said, still watching me. You're always looking out for us. There was something in his tone I couldn't read, something sharp under the friendliness. I muttered a quick, no problem, and made for the door. But before I stepped out, Daniel said, Oh, I almost forgot. He held out an envelope. Your internship renewal. I told HR to keep you on another 6 months. The air shifted. He smiled, but his eyes didn't. You're part of the family now. I took the envelope, hands cold. Thanks. When I left, I could feel his stare burning into my back. That night, I couldn't shake the look on his face, not anger, not confusion, but something worse. Calculation. By morning, the fallout had already started. A company-wide email. Restructuring. Team changes. I was reassigned to another department, no explanation. And Mara, she wasn't in the office. Her desk was empty. Around noon I got her message. He knows. Please don't come near me. I read it 3 times before I believed it. The day dragged. Every sound felt too loud, every silence heavier. After work, I went back to the parking lot, the same spot where it began. Her car wasn't there. Only the fading marks of tires, rain filling them like small wounds. I stood there too long, trying to think of something I could say that wouldn't make things worse. Then my phone buzzed again, another message from her, shorter this time. I told him it was my fault. My chest went hollow. She was protecting me. And somehow, that made everything worse. Rain fell hard that night, the kind that blurred everything into silver streaks. I didn't mean to drive there, but I ended up outside her building again, wipers dragging against the glass like a heartbeat out of sync. I told myself I wouldn't go in. Just see her window, maybe catch a light. Proof she was still there. Proof she hadn't vanished completely. Then I saw her silhouette, faint, moving behind the curtain. Before I could stop myself, I was out of the car and at her door. My hand hovered over the buzzer. I pressed it anyway. A pause. Then the soft click of the lock. She opened the door slowly, like she already knew who it was. Her eyes were tired, red at the edges. You shouldn't be here, she said. I know. Daniel's asleep. I figured. Neither of us moved. The air between us was tight, heavy with everything we hadn't said. Finally, she stepped aside. 5 minutes, she whispered. Inside, the place looked smaller. Maybe it was just her, shoulders slumped, sweater hanging loose, like she'd been holding her breath for days. Why did you tell him it was your fault? I asked. She leaned against the table, staring at the floor. Because it was. No, it wasn't. Her jaw tightened. He asked if there was something between us. I told him there wasn't. But he saw my face, and he knew I was lying. She looked up then, and I saw tears in her eyes that she refused to let fall. He didn't yell, she said quietly. He just looked at me. Like I was a stranger he'd once known. I took a step closer. You didn't deserve that. Her voice broke. Didn't I? She turned away, hand pressed to her mouth. I kept telling myself it was nothing. That you were just kind. But I looked forward to seeing you. I thought about you when I shouldn't have. I waited for messages that never came. And when they did, I hated how happy I felt. I didn't interrupt. I just let her say it. Finally, she looked at me again, tears glinting in the dim light. You make me feel alive. And that scares me. I moved to her, close enough to smell rain still clinging to my jacket. Then let it scare you, I said. Because it scares me too. She laughed softly through the tears. You don't even know what you're offering. I've got years you haven't lived yet. Mistakes you haven't made. I'll hurt you, Liam. Then at least it'll be real, I said. She stared at me for a long, trembling moment. Then she reached out, fingertips brushing my face, barely there, trembling. Her eyes closed. If I kiss you, I won't stop. I know. For a heartbeat, the world held still. Rain outside, clock ticking, our breaths tangled in the small space between us. Then she pulled back, tears slipping free. Go, she whispered. Please. Before I don't. I didn't move. She looked up, eyes shining. This isn't goodbye, she said. But it has to be the end of tonight. And I understood that what we had wasn't meant to be tidy or easy. It was messy, human, impossible. I left before dawn, her voice still echoing behind me, half love, half mercy, all truth points 6 months past. The city turned from rain to heat, then back again. I'd switched apartments, grown a beard, started pretending I liked coffee without sugar. People said I seemed more focused now. They didn't know it was just practice, learning how to look fine when you're not. I hadn't seen Mara since that night. Not really. A few accidental sightings across the lobby, one company event where she smiled like I was anyone else. It should have made things easier. It didn't. Every version of my life since then felt split in two, before her and after. Then, one Thursday afternoon, I found her note. It was tucked inside a folder Daniel had passed me. A single sheet of paper, her handwriting neat but hurried. I've resigned. We're leaving the city for a while. Don't blame yourself. Some people come into your life to wake you up, not stay. You were that for me. And I sat there for a long time, just holding it. There wasn't anger. Not even regret. Just a strange kind of calm, the feeling you get when a wound finally starts to close, even if it leaves a scar. That night, I drove out to the edge of the city, the same road where her car used to sit under that flickering light. The lamppost still buzzed, same weak glow, same echo of our first conversation. I parked, turned off the engine, and let the silence fill the space. For a second, I imagined her there, sitting on the hood of her car, hair loose, hands wrapped around a paper cup. She'd say something half sarcastic like, "You still overthink everything, don't you?" And I'd answer, "Only when it mattered." I smiled at the thought, because maybe that's what we were, two people who met in the wrong season but taught each other how to feel again. It wasn't love in the fairy tale sense. It was something quieter, something truer, The moment you realize someone saw you when you stopped seeing yourself. The next morning, I turned in my own notice. Not out of heartbreak, but because I couldn't stay in the same orbit forever. I needed distance, something new. A week later, I got an email, no subject line, just a few words. You were right. It was real. No signature. No return address. But I didn't need one. I closed my laptop, leaned back, and let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding for months. Maybe she'd find her peace. Maybe I'd find mine. Maybe the point was never to end up together, just to meet, to matter, and to move on. That was enough. I folded the note and tucked it into my wallet. A reminder, not of what I lost, but of what I finally understood. Love doesn't always stay. Sometimes, it just passes through long enough to change you. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next? Quiet heartbreaks, second chances, or love that actually lasts?